A completely new Porsche interior introduced by the new Porsche Cayenne Electric, here with a flow screen, a curved screen. All the details you need to know now with Thomas and Autogefühl. But before we go in depth on the all new interior, which will be leading the way also for other Porsche models, let's take a look at the new Cayenne exterior, the new Cayenne Electric. It's not 100% final, but let's say like 90%. There are some parts still covered, but now more to what it's really going to look like. And talking about all the important facts and figures, this is also the turbo model, the top spec model, over 1000 horsepower, 1500 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 is under 3 seconds, 0 to 200 kilometers an hour under 8 seconds. And we could already take one first acceleration with this one. What the? Yeah, that was 50 to 100 in like, what the hell? So now we're here at 90 kilometers an hour. Let's go. 150, 170, 200, crazy, 220, 250, what the what? What? And here, talking about the front, I can open it with the key fob here, or I can also swipe here, even without touching it, should work. Yeah, there we go. So this is also possible, quite cool. Here we can see the real paint of the car underneath, secret. And this is the front, which can also house more than a charging cable for sure. In the side profile here we can see the top 22-inch wheels with a classic Porsche Spider design that looks really striking. The length will be longer than a little bit longer than the combustion engine model of the Cayenne, which will run parallel. So this will not replace it. Both will be available, important to know. And the length here is hard to get that here for you in the studio. Leah has to work around. So the length here is not the final number, it's not 100% confirmed, but I am expecting 4 meters 96 or 4 meters 97, 196 inches, something like that. And you can see in the side profile, typical Porsche Cayenne style, so it doesn't look too different from the combustion engine model. It will feature air suspension as standard, optional Porsche Active Ride, the optional suspension which has one hydraulic pump per wheel, and rear axle steering will be available up to 5 degrees. The rear wheels turn in the opposite direction of the front wheels, reducing the turning circle by a meter to 11 meters and 1. And the threshold is at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. Above that, it goes in the parallel direction. In the rear, still somewhat hidden here, but you can already get an idea of how the lamps will be oriented. Of course, it will have some resemblance also to the Macan Electric, but also some resemblance to the Cayenne combustion engine model. Very interesting, definitely. So tell me what you think so far about this model. Even more interesting facts and figures, of course, about the battery and the charging. Battery at 108 kilowatt hours. Expected WLTP range, like the official cycle, is 600 kilometers. More realistic with higher Autobahn speed could be 500 kilometers, 300 miles. Of course, depends on the use case, how it will end up. And about the charging, we have already done a charging test for you. The official figure is under 16 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge. But in our charging test we already did a couple of weeks ago, we even scored 8 to 80% in under 15 minutes. And that is, of course, really astonishing. Up to 400 kilowatt DC charging, that is the peak. And recuperation is even stronger. So this car can recuperate up to 600 kilowatt. It also means that in 97 of all driving cases, the braking will be done with the recuperation and not with the friction brakes, only if you really need them. And talking about the rear once again, there will be an optional towing hook available, and this one can tow up to 3.5 tons, so like a combustion engine Cayenne, and that is also a very rare thing with electric vehicles. And AC charging 11 kilowatt, later supposed to also come with a 22 kilowatt option, or up to 11 kilowatt inductive charging. We did a special feature on that one if you're interested in that. So there's like a special plate you can order from Works. It's kind of expensive, you know, so I have to add that extra. And then also another receiver underneath the vehicle, but it is a very handy solution actually for maybe your own garage and so on. So inductive charging is also possible here with the new Cayenne Electric. The doors here, so classic door handle like that. First of all, door closing sound, really solid. Both front and rear, that's how we like it. Although they are frameless coupe style. And this one here, the Cayenne Turbo we have here, is also equipped with a soft close. And now to the interior, let's start with the key fob. Looks like this. Here the turbo also in this Turbo Night Porsche crest. Then here the doors, we can already see here, these have the special illumination. And let's also check it out if it's for the rear as well. Yeah. There we go. So both in the front and in the rear, at least here for this top model. And also the window levers, they have this nice galvanization here on the top, so that looks really premium. It also feels like this knurling also at the very top there. So that's pretty cool. I like these details. Here we also have another key fob, for example, or another button for the frunk as well, and here for the trunk. And also everything, as we know from Porsche, wrapped tightly, really horizontal focus. And here also something you can really feel, see and touch. Memory seating, 3 different functions. Inside of the door pocket, this is rather hard here. There's a rubber pad at the bottom though, that things don't slide around. And then we have the turbo entry badge. Of course, there will also be the other versions available. I really like the floor mats, which have these somehow indentations here, so that brings a sporty touch as well. Steering wheel with real jog wheels. Here, for example, for the volume, right side to control the digital instruments. Drive mode selector, different driving modes available, as I told you. And then we start with new digital instruments. This is an OLED screen, therefore it's really crisp. These ones are 14-inch. And then the seats. This is here the sport seat. We've had a little bit more shoulder accentuations here in the top part. And there's also a comfort seat available, which looks a little bit more open then. And the comfort seat will also offer a seat massage with vibration. And for the first time, the Cayenne is also available completely animal-free, both seats and also steering wheel. Here the seats will have the Pepita pattern. This is a retro fabric pattern here in the middle. And on the outside, we have the raised text, the microfiber. I would have wished also for like a high-grade leatherette, because these seats are pretty cool. I like the Pepita sport seats, but not everyone wants to have them. And I think it would be the best choice just to offer a perforated high-grade leatherette like we have in the BMWs, which is better in a technology sense. Then here with 189, 6'2", headroom is still left here, it's no problem. This is also a real panoramic roof. Hardly we have that anymore with new electric vehicles, but this one is one you can really open, have some fresh air in. And this is like a very interesting combination. So you have here also this electric dimming inside. And this is something we rather don't see. So I can, for example, here put it in the matte style, then clear again. You also have some mixed positions of that. And usually this is only for fixed panoramic roofs, but this is here the combination of one you can open, but still have this electric dimming. So that's very interesting. But I leave some more air in again, that we also have a little bit more light here in the front. The sport seat here itself, you can see here you have different positions. Also here the front part can be made a little bit longer. The base seat would be similar to the comfort seat, just that the optional comfort seat has also more adjustments like the one you see here. And this seat massage actually will even have a vibration function this time, can also work together with the music. However, that's not available for the sport seat. But here, typical Cayenne SUV position. However, in comparison to the combustion engine model, it feels like you would be sitting a little bit lower. That's at least my spontaneous reaction. And here you can also see it goes a little bit inward, like here from the outside sill. You might remember the typical Cayenne platform, or also Audi Q8, Bentley Bentayga, Audi Q7, VW Touareg. It was one of the characteristic signature things that we had, like the even entry sill together with the floor here. But that's not anymore the case here. But just a detail I just immediately realized. And now to the highlight of this video, the all-new Porsche interior, which is not only for the Cayenne, it will also, be transported in following Porsche models. That's why it is already important that it's the new Cayenne electric, but even more important because these elements will be carried over to many more models actually. And the most obvious thing is this curved screen. They call it flow screen because it flows basically. You can see here also when I move the map, and I'm not sure how you can see it on the camera, which is 2-dimensional, but here in the 3-dimensional styling it looks really impressive. You have to get used to it, definitely. It's something completely new. Some maybe know it with folding smartphones or something like that, just that this one stays of course always in this very direction here. And then we have it together in one unit with a passenger screen. At the moment we have a YouTube video here with some guy I've seen on YouTube, so I'm not sure if you know him actually, with the camouflage Cayenne on the outside. And you can use it for many other functions as well. It is an option, you don't have to use it because people in the US or in the EU usually don't fancy passenger screens that much. It's, on the Asian markets, they're really popular. But then it would be like a black panel. So like it is here, it just flows through. So I think that's a better integration than we've recently seen with Audi, which like pops up and then you can see, oh, there's no screen inside. But I would suppose that if the screen is here like not present, it's just like the black panel. Yeah, it's a lot of high gloss black, definitely, but at least it is in this one layer basically. Here, there's also a soft touch on the top dashboard, then the classic analog clock as we expected. And this special screen here has another Porsche-esque element. They took it from a photo from Ferry Porsche, where he was like driving in a 911 and then having his hand here like loosely on the shifting lever, and then say, oh, wait a minute, why don't we call it Ferry Pad? And that's why you can put your hand here and also control the screen from here. And we can activate, for example, the seat heating here. The seat cooling also works simultaneously. So if you're like, it's a wet winter day and you have wet clothes and you're cold, you can activate the seat heating and the seat cooling at the same time. The climate unit is very important to me, with nice Porsche clicking sound, metal knurling, also the fan speed. This is all the manual control. I really appreciate it. You don't have to do it in the screen. This, as I said, the GPS. Then we can check out the Apple CarPlay integration. Looks like this. And for example, if you scroll through like a Spotify playlist here, then you can see how it comes into effect. I would really like to hear your feedback on that. If you think that's a good idea or if you think that's kind of like strange. Like all new stuff, you have to get used to it. Also because when you just watch it, you're kind of following the curve with your eye. So that's definitely something you have to get used to. But I think the overall Apple CarPlay integration here is actually quite decent. So that's cool. And then there's also a separate climate unit, for example. It's then here in the lower part. And you can have this, so to speak, split view. For example, also here when you're on the map and you slide it up like this, then you have the control for the panoramic roof here, for example, something for the sound system, and you can of course also individualize your widgets right there. And in the top part here, speed chime deactivation, very important to know especially for everyone in the EU. And also when you slide from the top part down, then you have even more customizable buttons. For example, again, the speed chime or also the lane keeping assist if you don't fancy that. If you want to drive on the countryside route a little bit more freely, so to speak. Digital instruments, I can soon take another look at. Driving mode select at the steering wheel, but the middle console is also something really special. First of all, Porsche crest here on the middle armrest. You can slide this one backwards, and you can see here, this is the sliding area, so to speak. Slide it backwards here, and this one can be slid in the front like this, and then we have open space area. Interesting cup holders with adaptive function with fabric. So that's a new thing, and yeah, why not? And you can have it in this lower position for higher bottles. And you can also take out this whole thing, and then either maybe like for Leah's handbag or something, so with a lot of space. And 2 USB-C chargers. And you can also, 2 more there, and inductive charging pad for the phone as well. Oh, someone left a phone with a Spider-Man app in there. And then look at these. You can also turn them around, and you might ask yourself, how can they be higher then? Well, this is the secret. So it's just placed higher inside this middle console. I can soon show you again the difference. So like this, maybe like for coffee and so on. So they are now placed higher, close to the USB-C chargers. And once again, if you unlock them and turn them around, they are then held at the bottom. There you can see the difference again, and then they're fixed in the front. Here, this is like the lift, how they're like more in the bottom part of the middle console or higher. So an interesting idea, also just like a new thing here. Also Porsche SUVs thinking of more practicability and flexibility in the interior. And the digital instruments are also adjustable, how much information you want to see there. And there's also this map mode available. And you can also have here in CarPlay the Apple Maps. In the instruments, I would suppose it also works with Waze, but it doesn't work with Google Maps, not in Apple CarPlay, but Google Maps would work if you have Android Auto. Then Google Maps would also be in the digital instruments available. Rear seating, first of all, this is the lowest position for the rear window, then everything wrapped tightly are also in the rear for the door, also again with a nice metal knurling here. Then no covering of the inside of the door once again, but the rubber pad, but it's more like positions like this actually. Interesting that we have here standard electric seats in the rear for the rear bench. This is also why the trunk volume can vary, because you can put the seats all the way, that's really way in the front, and you can also put it in the cargo position, so to speak. And this then varies the trunk volume, which you can soon show to you, from 550 to 780 liters. So let's put it back into the normal sleeping position again. That looks funny, yes. And then we have the ISOFIX here on the outside each. Let's see the clips, the covers, yeah, they fold down and you can put them up again like this. It is a single seat setup. However, you are legally allowed to sit in the middle. That is possible. It's just a little bit stiffer. It works space-wise. That's no problem. It's just, yeah, not that comfortable actually. And then here, I'm driving like this. There's a really lot of legroom, so this also shows, yeah, it's a little bit longer, but the wheelbase is actually longer, and then you have more legroom than in the combustion engine Cayenne. So that's a good advantage for that one. And since an SUV, you don't have this negative electric effect that the feet would be too high. You can see here the like the angle of my legs is actually really fine. And I can also adjust in the back part here, for example, once again. So you can find a very nice and spacious seating position here with 189/602. There's enough headroom left, although this is also the version with the panoramic roof. And then here we can fold down this cup holders. They are not adaptive though. But this is like, still good build quality of the middle armrest. That's interesting. I hope that's pre-production. We'll see about that when we have the final vehicle very soon. Then we have here temperature unit, metal knurling, ventilation. Yeah, that's lovely. I would play with this as a passenger in the rear all the time. Seat cooling and seat heating also available for the rear seats. Yeah, but that will be surely an extra price for that. Now let's check out the trunk or the boot. Opens right there, or for example also at the key fob. And then we have here good 1.40 meters in width, and the normal standard length is here also about 1.40 meters. As I showed you earlier, we can also move this bench forward and we can also change the inclination, so both is possible. Standard height here is about 70 centimeters or 27 inches. So you can say that you can see like the dimensions a little bit better. And then let's check out here underneath. It's a good storage here for the trunk cover. So this is a very clean solution. And even more interesting, we can also electrically fold the seats. That's a cool function. There we go. 1/3, 2/3 split. And let's see how flat it actually goes. And that looks pretty cool. Let's check out the full length. So we are here about 1.85 meters or 73 inches now. And about the pricing, the final prices are not out yet, but we have some estimations and also what they told us. So it's supposed to start round about where the Cayenne plug-in hybrid starts today. And that would be, for example, German price 116,000 euros. That would be then the entry version, which also already has the 108 kWh battery, all-wheel drive, so one electric motor in the rear, one in the front. The usual system is, by the way, you mainly use the rear electric motor, and when you need the power, then also the front electric motor comes into play. And by the way, this, drive mode logic is, like you have normal mode, sport mode, and so on. But when you pin down, then you always have the same power, no matter in normal or sport mode. You have more power, like 135 horsepower plus when you push the push to pass button at the steering wheel in the middle of the drive mode selector. Then you have this additional power, and the full maximum power is with the launch control from 0. Why did they make this differentiation? Well, they say that if they would have made the full power, like with the launch control, available in the normal driving with the pin down, some might not be able to handle this sudden burst of power, because this car has so much power that you have to limit it a little bit for the best everyday use. Very interesting, isn't it? And then, well, if you have this full power with the Cayenne Turbo, there will of course be some that are not that aggressive in the acceleration, but already sufficient. Here, the Cayenne Turbo, when you look at the today's prices, more like 190,000 euros. And if you then add some extras, we can definitely say that this one can easily exceed 200,000 euros in the pricing. What do you think about the new Cayenne Electric? Tell me in comment, especially about this interior. If you want to see more, we have the episode where we drove the Cayenne Electric extensively, and also the episode with the inductive charging.